Welcome along to the show. It is Footy Talks presented by Benjamin Moore. Great to have you with us, Luke, alongside Stephen and KJ. And we're building up to what is the newest phase of the Major League Soccer season, a season that Greg Vanney said he figured that we're probably moving into phase 6 or 7 right now. After one of the most unusual seasons of the campaign and coming off what was a pretty wild ride in the Canadian Championship over the last 6 weeks without it even really being the Canadian Championship. But we got the chance to see some interesting things happen. And it all culminated last night with that Rudy Camacho, Mike Tyson punch to the knee of Freddie Montero, and really Montreal find a way to, from a position, KJ, where it was all in their hands. And I think you would agree that they were going into that match last night, having seen how Vancouver have played and how Montreal played the game before, and what we've seen from them in this tournament. It was theirs to lose, and they found a way to lose it.
Yeah, they did. They obviously did. They were their own worst enemies, weren't they? And ultimately, you know, that new TFC DP signing, Rudy Camacho, is working out fantastic for them. He handed them a present a couple of times now. But look, if you're a Montreal Impact fan, you'd be really disappointed because I think it was there for you. You know, and I think that you could sense that in the players last night when you listened to them in the press conference that they'd really let slip a massive opportunity. And let's be honest, probably their best chance for Thierry Henry to get some silverware in his first year, and that would have been massive for his confidence as well. So, you know, it was one of those where we talked about last week. It was never going to be easy to go away from home in MLS and win back-to-back away games. But I do think, having seen the first game and the level of dominance and control that they had, Stephen, and I know they lost Maciel to a red, but it was the same players again. They've got the formula. There was some discussion in the broadcast about fatigue. I didn't necessarily see it until Camacho lost the red card. I thought they were the better team at 0-0. But once that happened, you lose a man and you lose a goal, and then another goal right after. It was capitulation from the Impact.
Yeah, quite frankly, they absolutely blew it. They should have been in the final of the Canadian Championship. There's no doubt about that. They were dominating the game. I don't think they were at their absolute best, but they certainly had most of the ball, dominating the game. Looked like it was going to be a matter of time before they found the right pass, the right service, and put the ball in the back of the net. And then Camacho does something absolutely inexplicable. It's you know, it's hard to condone it in any way or even sympathise for him. You know, it's just ridiculous at this level to you know, beat out like that. And I know there wasn't a lot in the contact. Some people are calling it the Bruce Lee punch, the kind of 2-inch punch that does so much damage, but obviously it didn't hurt Montero at all. But it's the act that counts, and it was a certain red for me. It should have been a red right away. A bit of delay, but it was a red card and a penalty kick, even worse, because I think that if they took the red card then maybe it was outside the box, I still feel they might have had a better chance of winning the game. But to go 1-0 down and then the man off and sort of give up the Dahomey goal not too long after that was just disastrous for the Impact. And I felt for Thierry Henry because I think he's did a lot of things well in this whatever phase of MLS, playing against Canadian teams in this Canadian Championship type format. I think he's done a lot of things right as a head coach, and I think he selected the best players more often than not. But, you know, individuals let you down. He's never going to come out and absolutely hang Camacho out to dry, but the two mistakes that he's made in the last two games are absolutely awful, and it's cost his team the Canadian Championship.
He did win them the game at BMO with that header. Yeah. His second Major League Soccer goal. So there is that going for Rudy Camacho.
1 step forward, 2 steps back.
Well, yeah, exactly. And we'll find out, well, who knows what is going to happen next, but we'll certainly put the question to Bill Manning, the TFC president, when he joins us a little later on the show on Footy Talks as to what the plan is now for the Canadian Championship final. If TFC are heading stateside for 8 months, 8 weeks, I should say.
It'll feel like that long.
It feels like 8 months.
Yeah.
Could they really play the Canadian Championship final in the United States and have either Forge or Halifax go there, or do they have to wait till December? Is there another scenario they can look at there? Nothing's ideal, obviously, but we'll wait and we'll see what happens there. But right now, I mean, everything is up in the air. But for TFC, they should never have got to the point where they left it to chance and left it. Greg Vanney said he was watching that game on Sunday night, really, you know, kicking every ball and frustrated that he couldn't impact the game for an outcome that he wanted. But ultimately, TFC left it to chance because they didn't get the job done themselves. However, they are now in a position where they're playing a CPL team for a chance to be in the CONCACAF Champions League, which, as we've said before, is what Toronto FC expect of this team in this organization on a yearly basis, Stevie.
Yeah, that's exactly what they need. And it looked like they were the ones that had blew it, because I've said it a number of times, but they're head and shoulders above the Vancouver Whitecaps and the Montreal Impact. And there was complacency that set in after the first 2 games and how comfortable they were. Even the 3 games where they didn't play that well in Montreal, but still came away with a Pozuelo penalty, 1-0 victory. They were the best team, and it should have been much easier. And I know Greg Vanny's saying, well, we won both series against the Impact, 3-game series, and the Whitecaps, but to put themselves in that position, I think was a big slip up. And now they've been fortunate enough that they've been awarded the path into the Canadian Championship final, which I don't foresee them giving up. So that's massive for the football club. They need to be in the CONCACAF Champions League. They had the magnificent run of, was it 2018, where obviously they lost in penalty kicks to Chivas Guadalajara. They want to get back there. They want to prove that they can compete with the best in CONCACAF again, KJ, and now they are one step away from that opportunity.
Yeah, look, I think there was always a little bit of momentum that they wanted to build in the organization following the loss, obviously, in that final in Guadalajara. The next year was a disaster against Independiente when they got smashed 4-0. But at that time, I think it was more of a, all right, well, it's not ideal, but we need to focus on the league kind of thing. And after a poor 2018 campaign, then they went back, had a decent year, lost on penalties in the final last year, and felt, okay, that, this is not a team that's used to not being in a major competition like that for 2 or 3 seasons in a row. So I think that they really felt and expect, budgeted, and all of the above to be in that competition. So now they're going to have their opportunity. They're going to beat the CPL team first, but they have made the Canadian Championship final, which I think is the 10th time in the last 12 years. So they expect to be competing for that trophy as well. And I don't know this. I'll just throw it out there. But of course, we don't know what the Champions League is going to look like. I suppose there is a realistic chance that the teams that were in it from 2020 that didn't get to play, like Montreal, may even be in it as well. I don't know yet. So we'll have to wait and see, because they're still waiting to finalize what's going to happen with this year's campaign. And it's looking unlikely that can get played pretty soon. But yeah, it's good. It's good that Toronto FC are going to be in it, in the final for them, and they get a chance to compete for the trophy and move forward.
And a chance as well, maybe, that the the CONCACAF Champions League has to get pushed back. Next year's edition gets pushed back maybe to later in the year as well, rather than being played at the start of the year if they have to finish up last year's tournament. So there are all these things up in the air right now with regards to the Canadian Championship, with regards to Major League Soccer, also with regards to all the international competition that's taking place with World Cup qualifying. So lots to be put on the soccer calendar over the course of the next 12 months. But for TFC and for the other 2 Canadian teams, what they now know is that they've got to head south. And TFC, we'll get Bill Manning's thoughts on exactly why they chose Yukon and Hartford, Connecticut. But I do like the fact that they have decided to go it alone here and try and create some kind of a home venue feel somewhere completely different, rather than just doing, say, what Vancouver are doing, KJ, and moving to Portland, where they'll play Portland Timbers on a home game at Portland Stadium, and Montreal heading to where NYCFC and the Red Bulls already are as well, and having issues with training facilities, all that sort of thing. TFC do seem as if they're trying to create some kind of a home field advantage here.
Yeah, look, ultimately they'll be playing in a stadium against teams who've not played there before. And if they have their, if things go well, they'll be able to play there, numerous times, and then maybe can create some kind of advantage and have a feel of it. And, I think that's important, that, we are living in a very difficult time. I was watching a game last week where LAFC left Los Angeles in the morning, and it turned out to be a 30 to 35 degree day, and landed in Salt Lake City in a blizzard almost, and then went and played that day, and then people are wondering why they're getting beat, so at least you're going to force these people to travel to your environment on the day of the game and come in, and you're going to be there and comfortable. So that's part of the home advantage as well, something that Vancouver's not going to get against Portland, something Montreal's not going to get against the Red Bulls when they play them 2 days, I think the third game, although I believe that's a Red Bull technical home game. But it's important. Look, I think everybody, Stevie, just deserves a tremendous amount of credit to try and figure out how they're going to get games here. It's not ideal. We've seen bubbles develop in other sports. We've seen Major League Baseball plod on and try and get through this and now create a bubble for their playoff. And Major League Soccer are kicking on and trying to get games in their own environment here and trying to get some kind of body of work. And in an ideal situation, it'll be 23 games that reflect some kind of work that can lead to some rankings for the playoffs.
Yeah, I think it's such a immensely difficult situation that everybody's in, and I commend all involved, and I include admin, operational staff at every single MLS club. I can only imagine the amount of emails and calls and delegation that goes into this entire thing, KJ. It's significant, and the players. Obviously, I sympathise with the players. They have to leave families, young families. The situation. Greg Vanny talking about having 4 kids and his poor wife. Of course, he's a coach, but being left with getting the kids to soccer, his daughter to gymnastics, and everybody's in that similar situation who has multiple kids. So it's going to be a real mental strain. It's going to be, again, unique and different to Orlando, in my opinion, where there is a bubble. I think that was quite clear that everyone obviously stayed in the same hotel and there was some amenities and there was a way of getting through 5 or 6 weeks. It's going to be even harder because I don't think it's going to be that same bubble type feel to it. You're going to want to go for a walk in the streets. You're going to want to go and experience some kind of, smallish crowd or public environment, but you can't. Can't do it, and they won't do it. I know they won't because they're so professional, but that's where it starts to play real problems with your brain. You start to really think about the situation you're in, and obviously not overstating it, but mental health things come into it. Guys will be down. Guys will have moments where they just can't be bothered training, really don't feel up for the game, and so it's going to be a grueling process. I'm hearing TFC, we can ask Bill about this as well, I guess, are going to have 2 different parts of the trip where they can go home and isolate with their family, which I think's a masterstroke, because at that point, what's missing 2 days training to give you that lift of seeing your kids and your wife for a little while. I think it's way more important than the practice you might miss. So tough time, guys. It's going to be interesting to see who copes with it best again and who adapts and who can, we always talk about, don't we, the sort of September, October, November teams kind of ramping up their season. Well, this is going to be more difficult to try and get your form right, just steaming into the playoffs and then showing your best football then when you've went through 7 or 8 weeks of away from your family in a hotel with not a lot to do.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned there, Stevie, like the administrators and everyone who has to pull all this together, because firsthand when you were a player just how much they have to do everything for you to avoid the fact that you might turn up for one trip to an all-star game or something and not have all the paperwork that you need to be able to cross the border to get into the US when you're working for TSN, where you have to do it all yourself. Yeah,
Esther's a difficult look. You probably can't remember because I think you've got a Canadian passport now, but mine's had expired. I missed the start of the trip. I think I still got there before you, but
it's not that difficult, right? When it expires, you renew.
Yeah, but you don't get a notification when it expires. So when you're standing at the airport and the kiosk girl tells you that your ESTA is invalid and it might take a couple of hours on a Sunday to renew it, the colour really drains out your face and you realise that you're missing your flight and about 3 or 4 others. So thankfully, I got there in the end. Otherwise, you were going to have to do that skills challenge, and that wouldn't have been pretty.
That was one of the highlights of my year, seeing you sweat through that 2 different jerseys on the All-Star Skills Challenge and get to meet the F2 freestylers. That was a real highlight there, Jezza and Billy. I was just going to say, though, before we get on to some other stuff and come back to TFC with Bill Manning and TFC moving forward, it is remarkable, and we joke about the administrators and doing everything for players. And I'm sure it's gone up even more now in terms of the expectation. And Tony Gallacher, we can talk about that in a moment, who came in from Liverpool, has had to quarantine, is now getting set to go with TFC. A loan signing left back, young kid who comes in, was talking about how the club did everything to make it easy for him coming in. I remember back when I was at Leeds, probably 2001, 2002, just before Christmas. And Eirik Bakke came in. Remember the Norwegian midfielder?
Yeah, great guy.
Came in into the training facility with 3 big boxes, right? Huge boxes filled with different kinds of toys and all sorts of things. turns out that he was bringing these boxes in so that people at the club could wrap his Christmas gifts while he was out training, so that he didn't have to go home and think about wrapping his own Christmas gifts. That's one extreme. But Stevie, at the very highest level, players get everything done for them.
Yeah, they do. And it's to give them no excuse. You know, they've got the whole preparation there. And I have to say, guys, a club like TFC are second to none, and I include every team I played for in the UK. TFC are absolutely outstanding. I'll never forget, I've still got it somewhere in a back cupboard there, the logbook that I got when I got there telling me the restaurants, nurseries, real estate agents, everyone is there for you to take care of your needs as you come from overseas and you land in Toronto. So they are one of the best. The guys stay at the best hotels. There's never any expense spared. We had some early games one year, and lo and behold, we're in the Shangri-La the night before. You know, we don't just go to like the local kind of Holiday Inn. We're in the Shangri-La. We're eating the best food. We've got a bed. You know, we're up early in the morning, pre-match breakfast, and then off to the kind of midday kickoff. So TFC are outstanding. The support is there. Players rely on that. I know you guys will think that we're pampered, overprivileged, babies, and Luke nods his head, but it just gives you every tool, I guess, to go and deliver and go and perform on the day. And so, most of these clubs are not at the level of TFC. I found that out in the 2015 CBA when we were arguing over things like 2 meals a day. You know, like I'm saying, why is this an argument? Let's move on. Let's get to a more important subject. Well, I'm sorry, and I'm not going to name the markets. In certain markets, they're arguing over whether to give their guys breakfast or lunch. And at TFC, you guys have had lunch up there. We walk in there and everything's laid out. You've got, poached eggs, you've got fruits, you've got toast, you've got bagels, you've got everything you need. And then lunch is even better. So they're a brilliant club, these guys in Toronto. There's also some other fantastic clubs in MLS, but it's not all like that. So they should thank their blessings.
It's not always been like that at TFC either. I mean,
that's true.
Luke can remember that. I can remember covering this team from day one and some of the stories that was like that. It's not always been like that in professional sports and professional football, even over the last couple of years. I remember, I think the big story was at Anelka when he came to England. And it may not even have been Arsenal. It might have been his Chelsea time. He tells a story when he was just basically just thrown in and said, you got to go find your own place to live. Find that there was nothing there. And, people were like, you're spending millions and millions and millions of pounds on these players and you're not paying anybody to take care of them. And obviously it's changed. Now we see what happened to TFC. I don't know if you guys have watched any of the Amazon All or Nothing Tottenham stuff right now, which is really, really good to watch. And I've watched most of those, and you can see part of the episode is when they sign one of the players and Bergwijn comes over and they're showing him his different houses and he can come in with his family and different things like that. So, this is all taken care of for them now. And as you mentioned, everything is there for them. And, even on that Amazon one this week, Dele Alli was telling a story where when he was in lockdown, he learned for the first time how to make baked beans. So that was, he didn't even use a stove. He just put them in the microwave.
Yeah,
first time he's ever learned how to cook baked beans. Dele Alli. At least
I've got lazy at that as well. To be honest, I don't know if it's since I moved to Canada. In England, I would never ever, if I was having to cook breakfast or whatever, beans on toast, never ever have put the beans in a tin and put them in the microwave. It would always have been cooked properly on the stove. But maybe it's because of the kids and everything, and you got to get it done.
For you. Get out of the microwave, put it on the stove.
I understand that.
I don't have a microwave, guys, for that very reason. Yeah. Just makes everything too easy. So now you need to cook it or heat it up properly, I should say. It's not always cooked like
yeah,
it's definitely evolution.
And you know what? Sometimes when we talk about the fact that sometimes producers playing with his new toys, right? It's like a kid in a candy shop. He's finally got something that he can actually do now during the show to put stuff on the screen. When you talk about Major League Soccer, and especially a club like TFC, the standards compared to a lot of places, even when you look in England and you look down the lower leagues, and we saw the trouble with a team like Macclesfield Town now going out of business, and these clubs that cannot even afford to do this for their players, and the mess that the game is in some of the lower leagues. And I remember once, we talk about baked beans on toast, but that was a pre-match meal for when I was covering Chesterfield, and they were going down to Gillingham, and they couldn't afford an overnight stay, and they couldn't afford to stop in a hotel. They would stop the coach by the side of the highway in a parking lot, they'd put all the beans into the microwave. They'd got a toaster that they'd plugged into the team bus, and that was what they had to deal with.
Yeah.
And this is still happening now, Stevie, at some of the smaller clubs. So when you see players in this Major League Soccer environment, some of them don't appreciate what it's like to fight and scrap at some of the lower leagues around Europe.
Yeah, they don't, and maybe that's not a good thing, guys. Maybe we need to teach our kids, our North American kids who are coming through in such, with such talent these days. I looked at a projected US national team, and it looks sensational. KJ, guys all over Europe playing for some of the biggest clubs in the world now, but it's something about that kind of growing up experience, youth team through the kind of reserves and then in some of the lower leagues, Luke, where, you learn really what it takes, and it's not about the trappings. Everyone wants to get to that point where you're Kai Havertz or Timo Werner and you've got the trappings, but you need to go through the apprenticeship, the education to get there. And, I think even a club like Burnley, so I came to Burnley from a bit of time at Leeds, Newcastle and Sunderland. And, when I got there, it was basically a toaster. Breakfast was a toaster, a loaf of bread, some Marmite and some jam. That was it, and I was used to having poached eggs and toast at Newcastle. So, that was a championship club that ended up being successful to the point that even in our season where we won promotion through the playoffs, there was 2 or 3 times in that month where one of our major investors had to pay our wages out of his own pocket. There was a big rumour, actually, a fact that Burnley may have went into administration if we didn't get the club up that year. And look where Burnley are now, and the players that they're signing and holding on to Tarkowski, denying 20, 25 million quid offers for him. So it's great to see. But yeah, to your point, MLS has some amazing markets where you get treated like a superstar. There is some markets where you don't quite get treated that same way, but I think they're few and far between now, and I think that they're struggling to keep up with the top guys, MLS 1, as KJ always calls it. And so they're going to have to rethink their whole strategy if they want to attract the best players and to be the best team.
Sorry, KJ.
Yeah, it's okay. I just want to add to that obviously it's the positive of what you just said is that when people talk about Major League Soccer being one of the best leagues in the world, that's why they talk about it, because of the markets, the population, the enormous size of a place like Toronto, Los Angeles. We're comparing them with the likes of, Burton Albion or Brentford or these teams in football terms sometimes. But, when you think about the actual places, they're tiny compared to what you've got over here. Now, what do they have is they have competitive environments, a culture of, centuries plus a culture in those environments that drives these players and these people and these fans. And that's what needs to continue and evolve here and that culture. But to Stevie's point is that, talent can only take you so far. Character, adversity, drive, those things are what you need in these. And do you want it enough? And the people who want it more than you will get there. They will. If they've got a bit of talent, they'll have less talent than you. If they want it more than you, they will get there. And that's what these people in these environments in South America who are sleeping on the streets or they're, falling asleep with a ball because that's all they have. That's why they're getting where they are. And that's the thing the only thing about the pampered world of North America sometimes that's going to struggle in developing players.
Yeah. Look, I just want to say one thing, interrupt you again, but go in the Players Tribune for anybody who's not seen that website or read any of the articles. I'm sure most people on here have, but fascinating insight into all types of sports, men and women, but football players. A guy like Nani, go read his story. He's a guy that I've always thought, Nani floats around and he doesn't have this and doesn't have that, as well as him being a really good player. But go read his story and go see how tough that guy is and go see what he's came through. It's incredible. And while we're very fortunate to live in most climates and some of the cities in North America are fantastic, great place to grow up for a number of different people, but a little bit of that grittiness coming through our academies, I think, is needed to really get our guys or to allow our guys to understand the attitude, the mentality that's needed to get to the top, to get to the really top of the world game.
I'm just trying to look for it now, but here it was. Christopher Samba. If you got The Athletic, go read his story. I don't know if any of you read the article when it came out back in June. The headline here: I slept in parks as a teenager. It hurt, but I was not scared. And he talks about how he had to move from place to place, left home in search of a chance in the game, and he thought the game had gone at times. His chance had gone, and he just got in, and then he got an injury that kept him out for a year. And fascinating story of another tale of how someone has fought through adversity to get to where they need to be because they want it so much. One thing that impressed me about listening to Tony Gallacher yesterday, who's come in basically, he's got something to prove. He wants to play. Greg Vanney is going to need another left fullback down this stretch. Justin Morrow can't play every minute of every game. Richie Laray is now a super winger down the left side, so you don't want to take that away as well. But Tony Gallacher was asked, what does this kid who's been at the U23s at Liverpool for 2.5 years, having played for Falkirk before that, why do you suddenly decide as a 21-year-old that you're going to come in the middle of a global pandemic and play in Major League Soccer for Toronto FC in a country that you've never set foot in? He said yesterday he's never even been to the United States either. He said, I don't care where it is. I want to play. I want to be a footballer. And if this is the next best step for me, that's where I'm going. And it's that mentality about it doesn't matter for him. He just wants to come and prove himself and play games and get better. And that is something that, when you talk about bringing the right players into a club, that's the mentality you need, Stevie.
Yeah, absolutely, and I commend him for making that decision because under 23 football is not men's football, and Tony said it himself. He wants to go play men's football, and he's chose MLS, which I think is pretty significant. A young lad playing for the under 23s at Liverpool would have had some options in the UK, but it shows you the growing stature of MLS in different countries. Traditional historic countries like the UK, where for many years, quite frankly, looked down on North American soccer and said, that's not real football. That's just the place you go when you want to kind of enjoy your life. Well, here's a 21-year-old coming over, trying to forge a career here, and hopeful that he can maybe create something permanent from his loan spell. So, I like to see that dedication. I thought he spoke really well. I have to declare an interest. He's Scottish, of course, so I loved him, but I thought he spoke really well yesterday, KJ. I don't know what you thought, but he was just on the point with a lot of things, quite direct. I'm looking forward to seeing him play. I know that he has potential, but I think, like he said, it's now time to go and play men's football and prove to everybody that he's capable, playing at a considerable level.
Yeah, I agree with all of that. And I actually think it could be an astute signing for TFC. I think they needed it, as you said, Luke. They needed it. I mean, Justin Morrow has been an outstanding fullback. I would say the best left back in Major League Soccer for a number of years. But right now, health-wise, hasn't been able to play that every game. And I think you need competition for places in those positions. And I think, seeing a little bit of him, you'll see the attacking thrust that he can bring down the flank. I think, there's a few comparisons. You're talking about under 23s men's football, and those a little bit older, but we've just been watching the huge development of Louis Binks and Montreal Impact, who made a very similar decision to leave Tottenham Hotspur. And we're watching him right now. We were messaging each other during the game last night, and this is a legitimate superstar in MLS potentially right now. And I know he's not going to be here very long, but he's playing at an elite level in Major League Soccer, arguably one of the best informed centre-backs in the league at the moment, a difference maker, a left-sided footed player, can step into the attack and read the game supremely. Let's be honest, had won the battle over Cavallini, the battle of mind and the battle of will in that game when he got him sent off. So that's what Binks has done there. If TFC can get something similar in a little bit of a different position out of Gallacher, then they'll be very, very happy.
My memory's been going a long time, but more so since I turned 40. So, Stevie, by the way, happy birthday.
Stevie's 40 now. Yeah, that's right.
He's into his 40s. Even got a mention from Peter Drury the other day on the broadcast. I'll get to that.
Yeah, was that the last victory that Leeds had in the Premier League at Blackburn Rovers? Was it something like that? Yeah,
last time Leeds won a game in the Premier League, Stephen Caldwell scored a goal. Mark Viduka got the other, which was a slightly more spectacular goal, I'm sure. But I can't remember. Are you and Tony Gallacher the only two Scottish defenders TFC have had? KJ?
Yeah.
KJ, are we?
Scottish defenders?
I can't remember.
I don't think you've had any other Scottish defenders, have they?
Yeah.
Not that I can remember, although back in 2007-8 when it was, Rick Titus, Mark,
there's a lot of Canadians, Redder and Pozniak and Braz and those guys, but I don't think there's been any Scottish defenders at TFC unless I'm sure someone will let us know pretty quickly if that's the case.
If we're missing anyone, do let us know about that. We'll get to Bill Manning, the TFC president, in a few moments' time. But you just mentioned Liverpool, and that we mentioned Peter Drury bringing up your name, Stevie, the other day. I'd been looking forward to seeing Leeds back in the Premier League, and we talked about it last week, and seeing Marcelo Bielsa in the Premier League. But that game delivered on so many levels that when you watch anything else the following, after watching that Leeds-Liverpool game, you're thinking this isn't the same sport. Like, it was fantastic.
So good. So good. Great to see Leeds back. Great to see the emotion of them. Great to see the bravery of them as well to go and attack Liverpool the way that they did and take, 3 times come back from being behind and play their own game and really chase them and go man to man at key moments. And the game was really impressive for me. I know Bielsa was obviously furious with the way they gave up the goal and the penalty as well, but just great to see. I think, the other 2 teams that came up with them, West Brom and Fulham, are going to struggle. There's a gap there at the moment. They're going to figure it out, but hopefully Leeds will be okay. I don't think it'll be easy, but just great to have the Premier League back and the end-to-end. I watched all the games last week ahead of my serious show, and it was just every one of them was really entertaining for me. But yeah, that was obviously the pick of them, 7 goals and another 4-3 at Anfield, as we bring back memories of Newcastle and Keegan, I suppose.
Yeah, it's the difference between having a truly world-class coach, isn't it, to reinvigorate a club. And there's many people that might have thought, well, I don't quite have the pieces, I'm going to change the tactics. This is a guy who's adamant in the way that he wants to play, and it doesn't matter if he's going to go to Anfield, Old Trafford, and if they're probably going to get a few spankings this season, Leeds, but they're going to get some big victories as well. And I don't think they're going to be in any relegation trouble because of that mindset, because of that idea that they're going to take the game to teams and they're going to play the way that they like to play. And obviously, they probably need maybe 1 or 2 more additions, but Rodrigo, once he gets up and running, is top quality. And I think that they have enough pieces there, KJ, to be out of that relegation fight. But what a game, what a performance. We're unlucky as well. The first penalty for me should never have been given.
Right.
That was ridiculous. I'm getting sick of these handball penalties. I really am, guys. I'm furious about it. I'm so confused as well.
Furious. You're raging.
I'm raging. I'm so confused as to what a penalty is. And, because it was obviously a little bit of deflection off the leg, and they're saying his body was bigger. But to me, that's never a penalty on the new boy, Robin Koch. I think he's going to be a good player. And obviously the second penalty was a really bad decision by the other new signing, Rodrigo. But take that out yet, and you look at the game, they're competing with the best there. So I think they're going to be okay over the body of the season.
Yeah, and it's great to see that obviously Liverpool went out and got Thiago Alcantara today as well, which is just an absolutely magnificent signing. And just to put a bow on it all, Thiago and Rodrigo are actually best mates. They were playing together as kids. There were 2 and 3 year olds. Their dads were obviously footballers. Mazinho, the great Mazinho, is Thiago's dad in the World Cup. They were best mates as well. And these kids were playing together for years. And many people thought they were actually related because they were in the same class together, and they thought that they'd manipulate the rules. So you're not allowed a family member in the same class. So now here they are. They're both going to be in the north of England, and it's fantastic to see Thiago Alcantara in the Premier League. I think he's going to be a magician in that Liverpool midfield.
Let's get to the president of Toronto FC, Bill Manning, who joins us on Footy Talks today, with TFC getting set to make the move for the next few weeks to Hartford, Connecticut as the home stadium. First stop, of course, is going to be DC. Bill, great to see you. How are you?
Good to see you guys. Good to see
you.
First off, congratulations on making the Canadian Championship final. I presume relying on Montreal and Vancouver, though, isn't quite the way you'd drawn it up originally.
No, I felt that we were going to need 13 points to guarantee it. And, so getting the 12 points still allowed for Montreal the opportunity to get in. So we're happy how the game went down. We still picked up 12 points in league play, get the Canadian Championship final, and, this CONCACAF berth, how important it is to our club. So, one step away.
Were you watching the game from behind the sofa or peeking through your fingers last night?
I decided I actually didn't watch the game, and I would go to my phone every, 20 minutes or so. And it was funny, at about the 35-minute mark, Ali texted me, and he's like, Montreal's knocking on the door. We need a red card or something crazy. And sure enough,
he got it.
And the game changes, and Freddie Montero obviously had a couple, and so just happy with the results, and certainly you like to control your own destiny, but we'll take it.
There's so much for us to get into, Bill, with regards to what's happening with the club right now. But now that you're into the final of the Canadian Championship, do you know when that will be played, or where it will be played, or how it will be played, or could it possibly be played in the US or in December, or how does this happen?
Yeah, look, I think the CSA and Peter Montopoli have been very understanding, right, of the situation. And we are now in the midst of our regular season, and so it'll have to wait. And what we had talked about amongst the teams with the CSA was once the MLS participant, once their season is done, so out of the playoffs, then we can kind of figure out a time frame to play the CPL champion. So I hope that's sometime in December or January, because we obviously want to be playing long. But it's just, it's everything during this whole pandemic. You have to be flexible and you have to be nimble, and we'll figure out a solution. But there's an understanding that we're going to be playing pretty much every Saturday, Wednesday, Saturday for the best part of the next few months.
And has there been any discussion, Bill, about location at all, or is that too far ahead? Did they have to wait and see who was going to be in the final before they determined where that game could be played?
Yeah, I think they were going to wait till who the two participants are, and then figure that out. Certainly we're going to push to host a game at BMO.
Right.
Maybe.
Well, Bill, you've done a lot of work the last couple of weeks or more than a couple of weeks, to set up what is coming next for Major League Soccer and for TFC in this next phase of the season. So take us through what happened and why you ended up with the team go to Hartford, Connecticut as the home base coming up.
I don't know if you have enough time. This could take a few hours.
We got nothing else to do. We'll be here for you.
Yeah, it's really been something. When it became apparent that, when the Blue Jays actually, they weren't going to allow the teams to come in for the Blue Jays, we really started looking at options in the States. And we went pretty far down the road with Philadelphia, actually. And they were having some challenges with their local government. And it's funny, an old friend of mine, Ray Reed, is the head coach at UConn. And I was speaking to him, and he said, have you thought about Rentschler in Hartford? And I had remembered the U.S. national team had played there. I've never been there. And so a guy who's working at the league office now, Jay Berhalter, I called him and I said, hey, do you know the folks there from when you were at the national team program? And he made the introduction, and they were very welcoming. I mean, the governor, Lamont, was so welcoming, as well as a guy named David Lehman, who heads up their economic development. And our hope originally was that we would fly in and out for games, and that all three teams, we all worked together. We worked with the government, but at the end of the day, the government wasn't comfortable with that plan. And so the contingency plan was to set up shop down in these surrogate markets. And so in Hartford, we will be playing our games at Rentschler Field. We'll be practicing there the day before. We're set up in a very nice hotel called the Goodwin Hotel. And we're going to train at Trinity College, which is a nice Division III school, has a very nice manicured grass field and a training field. It's about 8 minutes from the hotel. And then I get called from the AD the other day saying that they have a little bit of a scare, just things are on pause right now. And so we have a couple of other options. We've had to have all these contingency plans. And as I say, you just got to be nimble and flexible. And there's a local soccer club, Farmington Soccer Association. We're going to go visit them on Monday. Evidently, they have a few very, very nice fields, grass. That was very important to us, was to be on grass. There was some turf fields that were available to us, but that was important. And then there's another local private school up there as well that we're looking at. So we'll have a good training situation. There's a guy there locally, used to work for U.S. Soccer, named Tom Meredith, that's helping us out, as is Ray Reed. And so we have some feet on the ground. Jeff Bradley made a few visits for us because he's in the States right now. So he was our on-site guy. And so we did a lot of work in Philadelphia, and then up in Connecticut. We chatted a little bit about Red Bull, but what was really important to us was actually having our own home as well. And so when Hartford really opened their arms for us, it's totally exclusive to us. We're the only team that's there. UConn football won't be playing. And from everything I see in the videos and so on, it's a beautiful stadium. Josie and Michael speak highly of it. So, and Greg does. Greg knows the stadium. So it was, preference playing at BMO Field. Once that became not a possibility, flying in and out, that became not a possibility. And so now we're going to do the league, and I compliment the league. The league has worked the schedule so that we're going to go in increments. So we're going to play a 3-game, 2 on the road, 1 at home, that kind of first leg. Then we have a 5-game, 16-day. And then we have another 3-game, 9-day, and then 1 last game on decision day. And so we'll at least be able to come back for a couple of days so our guys could see their families. We won't be able to train, but we do think it's important that they could still come back, see their families, see their loved ones, and then go back to Hartford. So Greg is actually coming back to Hartford right after the game in DC, and so we're gonna set up shop. We have a group of about 8 of us that are driving straight there, and it's going to be our home away from home. So not ideal, but I think it's going to be a really good solution for the situation.
Is there still a hope, Bill, that maybe get back into BMO Field before MLS Cup? Is there still maybe a slight glimmer of chance that there will be games at BMO Field and you guys can maybe play the playoffs potentially at BMO Field?
Yeah, I mean, certainly against Montreal, right? If we wound up playing Montreal, we would have that opportunity again. We are holding hope, Stevie. It's as is Montreal and Vancouver. It's so much is going to depend on the travel restrictions. They just extended it again to the U.S. and we're respectful of that. We thought we had a very good plan, whereas any club coming from the United States wouldn't even have been here for more than 24 hours. It would have been in and out day of game. But just the sensitivities of coming through the airport and so on, it's just not something that was going to fly right now. So we move on, right? And we're gonna keep hope, and hopefully things in November calm down. And I do think the government was very, very good. PHAC, Public Health of Canada, and they understood our situation. They just, with everything going on, the door isn't closed, but for now the door is closed, and so we'll see.
Bill, can you take us into some of the meetings with the players in preparation for this? I know that we talked about it off the top of the show, actually, about the importance of their mental health and making sure that every question is asked and then every question is answered ultimately as much as you can with those players. What were those conversations like, and what was that situation like in terms of giving them that chance to come back and in between and that mini quarantine, so to speak, and talk us through some of the issues that the players had before you decided to sign off on this?
Yeah, so their biggest fear was we were going to be away for 3.5 months or so, and so we had let them know that we were working on a plan where we'd be able to fly in and out, but there was a possibility that we'd have to set up shop in the U.S. And Ollie did a very good job of keeping the players abreast, and I spoke to a few guys during that time. I spoke to Patty and Michael, and there was a good steady stream of information between Ollie and Greg and the group. But as it came down to crunch time and decisions were being made, once we found out that the federal government was not going to approve the in and out, we had already done our contingency plans for Hartford, but we quickly got a call with the team and I let them know what was going on. The league, in anticipating if we had a negative decision, had already kind of built these blocks into the schedule. And so we were able to tell him that the plan would be we'd be away. We showed him the exact blocks. And it was nice. I got a couple of phone calls myself, just guys saying, just having those couple of days to come home is massive for us. We can go away for a week or so. We can go away for 2 weeks. But as long as we know we're coming back, that's huge. And so, Greg has a family. It's important for him as well. And so to take a couple of days off with no training is not the worst thing. And I think the guys will go back refreshed, seeing their family. But it was a good, steady stream of information without overwhelming them. The one thing that I felt was important is I didn't want to overwhelm them with all the options. It was more, guys, we're on it. We're looking at all the different contingencies. Here are the scenarios. But we just kind of left it to little individual conversations here and there until we had to address the whole group.
And how long will they be back when they come back for, Bill, in total? Because I know for a lot of people, there's actually the 14-day quarantine that most people have to take when they come back from the US. So talk us through that process and how you got that approved.
Yeah, so there's and this is all the lawyers and the legality of it is, as long as you are quarantining in your domicile, in your home, and you traveled for work reasons, you can leave again before the full tenure to go back for work reasons, right? So that's our situation. And so Greg will make the decision on how long we'll be home. I told him I'll support whatever decision he makes, and it may be 2 days, 2 nights, 3 days. It may be 3 days, 4 nights, 3 nights, 4 days, whatever he decides. I imagine it'll be a couple of days, probably 2 nights and 3 days, where he'll probably regen in Hartford, come back, sleep a night, maybe 2 nights, and then get back, depending on our schedule. The good thing is that at the end of each kind of increment, we're playing in Hartford, so we can decide to leave directly from there, even night of game, and guys can regen on their own at their homes if they want to.
Right.
We just won't be able to go to the training ground.
Yeah, it's huge though. Yeah.
Yeah, and for mental health, too, it's just the guys, experienced Orlando, and while it was very professionally done, it was a long time, and I think that wore on some guys, and so we're doing everything we can to make sure that things are taken care of on the ground here. We're shipping dogs to players' parents. Like, there's all kinds of things we're doing, and we're keeping Tanya Padron back here just to make sure that she can look out for all the families. We have pet services. We're doing drop-offs. We're still going to continue our food, so the families, Elaine will be cooking for all the families, and we're trying to do everything we can so that our guys don't have to worry about anything. And, Stevie, the last thing you want is a phone call from your spouse when you're on the road, right? And so, complaining. Yeah. And so we're going to try to make sure that everyone is taken care of so our guys can just focus on playing.
Bill, we were talking exactly about this earlier in the show and how much of a culture shock it was for Stevie, having been a soccer player where things get done for you, to have to go into the broadcast world where you have to remember your own passport when you go into the All-Star game, things like that.
Passport.
I think I know the answer to this anyway, but someone commented about the fact that presumably these games will be played in Hartford with no fans.
Yeah, the first, for sure, the first couple of games, we just want to experience the building, understand the setup, get our guys comfortable. And then we're going to have a look at, if our players and our staff and everyone feels good about having some people to come in to watch us play, we're going to consider it. But we're going to get through the first couple of games first. And then we're going to work with the state officials. They are allowing spectators, and so I told them that we'll look at it, and maybe it is an opportunity where some people will be able to watch us play. But we did the first couple of games, at least, though, we're going to play with no fans.
Bill, let me ask you about the performances of the team over the last few weeks, and I want to ask you specifically about Pablo Piatti, because Pablo started every game since lockdown in Orlando and all the 6 games here. I think he's one of only 4 outfield players to do that. What is your impression of him during this time? And I know that some fans are asking as well, what's the situation with him in terms of having that option on the contract? Does that kick in soon? I'm sure some of his representatives are already talking to you about that potentially for next year. What's the status of that, and what have you liked about Pablo's game?
Look, I think Pablo has come in and he's now starting to make an impact. Jim Liston told me the last, I think 3 games, he's covered more ground than anyone on the field. And so that's, something that's important to Greg is that work rate. Richie Laria makes that fantastic run in the Montreal game, but Pablo was aware enough to follow the run, to be there to finish it off, which was, it's a very savvy move. But also peace of mind. He's a good guy. He gets along well with the team. He wants to win. He's fiercely competitive. I think, Greg at first was trying to figure out where to play him, how to fit him in. We have a lot of talented players in the midfield, and I think he's found a spot. He scored that great goal against Vancouver, and he's followed up now with a couple of assists. He had the assist with Pozuelo in Vancouver, and he, I think, is finding his form. That break really helped him because he was able, coming off the ACL injury, it's actually the other muscles that weaken from atrophy. And so he was able to really work on strengthening his hamstring. And, you saw that goal, how he celebrated with Marcello. He's fit. And he's healthy, and when he's fit and healthy, you can see his soccer IQ is very high from having played in La Liga for so many years. He's a very good player, and he's helping us win. And so I think he's still got another gear in him. I think he's gotten accustomed to the team, and I think we're still going to see better things from him.
So when does that decision have to be taken, Bill, in terms of next year for Piatti?
For the most part, we always wait until we're towards the end with options, and so we'll look at it as we get a little further through the season. This has been a crazy year, and so we'll be looking certainly at that. But right now he's fitting really well, and you need production out of your DPs. If you're going to spend money. Those are the guys that have to produce. And so, we still want to see Pablo be consistently on the scoreboard and part of the attack. But so far, he's doing really well.
Bill, really appreciate you taking the time to join us on Footy Talks. Lots to get through. We could have kept you for the whole afternoon, but we'll leave it there. And I'm sure you've got many more important things to do. So thank you for your time and letting all the TFC fans watching today know exactly what's gone into the decisions that have been made over the past few weeks.
Great. Thanks, Luke.
Thank you, Bill. Appreciate your time.
Bill Manning, the president of TFC, with us here. For any sports administrator, and it goes back again to having a team behind the team, which we talked about a little earlier on this season. This is one of those times where organizations that are set up properly are going to have success, whereas organizations that in a situation like this, where there are new challenges thrown at you and seems as if at times the world is falling apart, if your organization isn't set up properly, KJ, you're going to struggle in times like this.
Yeah, no question. Look, for everybody, I think that the hurdles are significantly higher for the Canadian teams. I think we have to recognize that they are at a significant disadvantage, and they have to make sure that disadvantage doesn't lean to the field, that doesn't become a disadvantage in the field, because these teams in the United States are going through challenges, but no challenges that the teams in Canada are going through. None. Some of these people are getting the incredible fortune and blessing of playing in front of supporters. Now, for us three and the Canadians that are watching this right now, we're all at the situation where we love to go watch sports. We're not allowed to go watch sports. We don't get, it doesn't matter about soccer or other sports. We can't do that. So we're not in that situation. And players enjoy playing in front of those fans. That's a distinct advantage for them as well. And these players are not getting to play in their own stadiums. They're not getting to play in their own country. They're not getting to play in front of any fans. They have to leave their families and they have to go in unfamiliar territories. And then they have to evaluate themselves and perform at a high level and try and win. And so there's an enormous amount of challenges that they've got to get through here, Stevie. And I do think that we have to recognize that these Canadian teams are facing an uphill challenge. But as Bill Manning has alluded to, that club has to try and do everything they can that when the whistle goes and the game kicks off, that those players don't feel like those challenges are existing during the 90 minutes.
Yeah, it's important that these guys go into the game with their minds clear, and that's going to be the hardest thing because, you know, we all live in lives where there's more to life than football, although we often think that it's a be-all and end-all. You know, when your wife's on the phone moaning, or your kids are upset because the dad's not there, or the dog can't get the walks, or the toilet breaks that it needs, it has an effect on you. It weighs on you. So I agree with you, KJ. I think it's significant, you know, the disadvantage that the Canadian teams are going through, but they can't feel sorry for themselves. They have to use that as a positive. Any sportsman or football player will tell you, you use it as a positive, you allow it to fuel you, you give yourself little goals, you try and get through a few days, a week, give yourself little markers, and you look forward to your little break when you get home. You use it wisely and you appreciate it. But at the end of the day, we chose this life. You know, there's so much that goes into becoming a professional football player that when you get that opportunity, whether it be in front of no fans in Connecticut, at BMO Field, at the new camp, I don't care. That's the life you chose. That's what you want to do. You never know when it's going to be your last game. You never know. And if you think like that and you have that appreciation for the game and you don't feel sorry for yourself, then you can go out there and perform. And I expect these guys in TFC Red to do it. I expect the other two teams to do it as well, Montreal and Vancouver, because they're pros. And that's why they're so good at what they do. And that's why they beat out millions of other kids who maybe had more talent. Quite a lot of them. We mentioned that earlier as well, didn't we? There's more talented people, but it's the mentality needed to play at this level that's going to stand these guys in good stead over the next few months.
One of my favourite days on the footballing calendar growing up in England and then working there was Boxing Day, right? When you've got all the games straight after Christmas Day, full programme. It was fantastic. So it sounds like we're going to get a TFC v Forge or HFX under the roof at Rogers Centre on Boxing Day this year. I mean, to have to potentially go for a start, not know when this final will be played until the team is knocked out of the playoffs, and then have to play it in December or January somewhere. I mean, nothing can be planned right now in terms of the whole schedule for everybody in the world. But this is a really unique circumstance, KJ.
Yeah, unique, and I think everybody understands it's a unique world. So it's a different time for everybody, and I think, you know, it's important that we also recognize that this is really special for a Toronto FC to play a team from the Canadian Premier League. You know, whenever that game happens, years and years down, no one's going to be talking about the fact that that game was played in January. It was actually recognized that it's supposed to be a 2020. But we're talking about the time the Canadian Premier League team reached the Canadian Championship final and played Toronto FC, and what that meant for that organization, whether it be HFX Wanderers or Forge. So I think that's really special from a football point of view. And look, you know, the calendar's being pushed and everything, but hopefully they can fit it in 2020. I see why not, why they couldn't. I mean, maybe they don't want to play it if they do get to MLS Cup, but yeah, there'll be a special occasion when they have it. And I, for one, am certainly looking forward to that. And I think it's big for the Canadian Premier League that they get that chance, because this situation where the pandemic has come has not presented them an easy opportunity for that league. They're coming to the end of that, but they now have a representative in that final, and we should all be talking that up a little bit more.
Just finally, Stevie, we're getting set to call the game on the weekend, TFC against DC United at Audi Field. We saw what happened when these two teams met in Orlando. It all got a little bit testy at the end as well between them, and there had been what Greg Vanney called a difference of opinion in terms of what went on with the game the day before that didn't get played and got cancelled an hour's notice out. DC coming back with 2 late goals in that game, sendings off. And it hasn't been going well for Ben Olsen's DC United, has it? It's a position now where the pressure is really on him and on that team as TFC head to Audi Field. What are you expecting from this?
Yeah, pressure's on Ben Olsen for sure. Look, he's got a number of injuries, so I have to bring that up first and foremost. Birnbaum, Canals, Edson Flores, his big DP, were not out there on Saturday against the Red Bulls. So he's got his hands tied a little bit, but I see a team who are devoid of a lot of confidence, especially in front of goal. not creating enough chances, not giving their strikers enough opportunities to score. So it's a tough time. I don't know what to say. Like I make TFC strong favourites. They should be going in there expecting to win. I see a DC United side that's lacking that spark that's needed to win consistently at this level. Doesn't mean that they can't beat TFC, as we know how close MLS can be. But KJ, they should be going into out of field expecting the 3 points.
Yeah, they should be. You're right. And, when you break down these 3 games to come, NYCFC and then Columbus, I think you would say that the easiest game on paper is certainly the first one, which is probably what you want. I think coming off a back of the Canadian Championship, going down there the first match, play that. I think they'd rather play DC now than they would Columbus or New York for that first game. So I think that probably helps them as well. You're right. DC. The thing with DC is that they've always been very organized. Mm-hmm. They've always been very difficult to break down. They've never been one, even with, when they had Wayne Rooney and Luciano Acosta, they weren't one that blew you apart with this swashbuckling, fantastic attacking style football under Ben Olsen. They've always been very tight games with TFC as well. So if they can maintain that, it's a challenge. I think Ben Olsen will drill them all week to say, you got to watch Pozuelo and Piatti and make sure we keep tight between the lines and don't give them the space and the overlaps on the wide areas. They'll be ready defensively, whoever's playing. But look, this is not going to be a team that's going to score many goals. And it's not going to be a team that I think will present too many attacking challenges to Toronto FC's defense, which I think presents them an opportunity again to build the momentum. We were talking about the consecutive clean sheets that they had. And I know they've let that slip a little bit, but I think they conceded 5 goals in 6 games, and 4 of them were really from set pieces. You think about the goals Camacho scored and Wanyama, both from set plays. The Baldissimo goal was from a second phase when he smashed it in from a free kick, and the Nowinski was from a second phase as well. So they've really only conceded that one open play goal with the Ali Adnan cross into Cavallini. So I think that's a confidence boost for Westberg and his defense. And if Toronto FC are going to want to challenge for MLS Cup and go far in the playoffs, I think Greg Vanney knows that they'll score goals, particularly with Altidore getting more and more match fit. It's the defensive framework and the structure and finding out that midfield balance and the numbers in there that will take them that far, I think. So that presents them a chance against a DC team that won't be that, I don't think, that much of a threat as an attacking unit.
Saturday night from Audi Field, live on TSN. Join us for the broadcast. What time does it start, KJ?
Well, I don't think we have a pregame show, I learned today. So that just means more of you guys and less of me.
So what time's kickoff is what I'm asking you, because
oh, you don't have it there. Is that what you're telling me? I think it's 7:30 because I think the Whitecaps game is at 9:30 right after.
Okay.
So I believe it's 7:30.
I knew we could rely on you. I'll make sure I turn up in time for the start of the broadcast.
You'll be fine, mate. You'll be in your
Hopefully this week Stevie doesn't have to run across the parking lot, because now that he's 40, I would worry for him to have to do that.
You're not going to be where I am. I'm not going to see you boys.
I don't know what's going on here. So
in my mind, you guys will be already in DC.
I'll come over and see you, mate.
Thanks, mate. We get free dinner. You can come over.
Oh yeah.
I'll be there for the free dinner. Don't you worry about that.
See, Stevie did get spoiled as a footballer, but occasionally he gets free meals from TSN.
Thanks to everyone for joining us on this Footy Talks.
Thanks,
we'll see you again next week, and Saturday night, 7:30, TFC at DC United, live on TSN.